There we go. It looks like it's coming.
We are live. I'm so excited. Welcome to my Substack Live, the Innovative Expert. We have another amazing guest, which is so exciting. I am Dr. Stephanie Thrower. I'm a psychologist. I have a small private practice, and I also am a coach that helps people diversify their income and create courses. And I've been calling myself a digital course dork, but I don't know if I can really commit to that, but it is true. And I use AI a lot of the way. But these interviews are so focused on talking to experts that I think, well, I learned so much from, both as a therapist and a coach and as a business owner. But also that I think my audience is learning so much about. So I want to welcome Dr. Angie Pulido-Banner. I say Pulido, yeah. Pulido-Banner. She is a psychologist who did everything the right way and ended up burnt out, buried in student debt and unpaid insurance claims. She was trapped in that 53-minute model, and then she built 2 businesses by doing the exact thing we were trained not to do, by showing up as her whole self. Neurodivergent, Latino, mom of 6, and no straitjacket, which I think means like kind of double meaning there, right? Her program for therapists is called Burn the Couch, and I'm so excited you're on today.
Me too. I'm excited to be here with you, and it feels really aligned that we're both coming from this highly educated space, right? That I never realized really stepping into many, many years of academia, what the effects are.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I talk about it a lot. But so we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. But one thing is we are both in the YAP challenge, right? And speaking on that exact thing, there was a lesson that was focused a lot on making sure that you don't speak down to your audience. And it just, I don't know, I was just really struck by how I can do that so unknowingly, and how I think I was literally trained that was being professional, and that at least I think it was protective on my part. Make sure you say all the big words. Make sure when you talk, you don't stumble, right? Make sure you say research says, right? Like, I don't know. Tell me about your experience of that.
Yeah, no, that stood out to me a lot. And I did have a moment of like a bit of shame, I would say, and grief, because I thought, oh my gosh, how many times have I done that? And when I look back, I start to kind of think of, years prior when I was deciding to get a doctorate, because I had gotten, of course, like the bachelor's degree, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a master's. And then I knew I was going to ultimately get a doctorate. And I don't know why a master's, like when I look back, I'm like, why wasn't the master's enough? But it felt like, oh, I have more authority. I even have people messaging me today. Is it worth it? And I highly value like my education, and I was obsessed with all of the information I was learning. But at the same time, I recognize that in some ways it can make us overperform, right? Because it's kind of it's an excessive amount of information. And
Yeah.
other people can feel small in that space, right? Where they're like, oh, wow, like it can make others feel like that when they don't know the level of information maybe that you've studied on something. So yeah, I the YAP challenge is helping me identify like how can we be in a space where we're collaborating, we're growing with each other, instead of like, oh, I have this much information, so you're down here. I don't want to make anybody feel like that. I don't want to feel like that in anybody else's space either.
Yeah. And is it really good for mental health treatment, right?
No, that's a
Like
whole nother story. Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
exactly. Yeah. It's its own thing. Hi, Mary. I love when people come on. Isn't the chat like so cool? Because it's like so visible right there. So if people do watch this, or like later on want to come on and ask questions, we will come back to things. Absolutely. Yeah. So for reference, the YAP challenge is this wild craze, right now. Mostly, I think a lot of coaches and digital business owners are like, wow, she made it really big financially. Jessie Jean had some experience, had quite a bit of training prior to doing this, had like a full career, and it sounds like binge eating coaching. I don't know like the extent to which she had mental health training, which I'm always like so curious as I hear, right, her work. But build a pretty massive following in a short amount of time on Instagram, and then kind of listen to what people were interested in and built an amazing, I think it's a pretty solid course so far. But what I find so fascinating is the community experience of it, right? Like I'm in a couple of different community chats who are trying to like be accountable and hold each other. And it's interesting to do it with each other, you know?
Yeah, no, it's challenging. Like I don't think I would have been able to do the challenge if it was even just a couple years ago. I think everything that's happened over my career has finally put me in a place where I feel more confident, being able to speak with those challenges. But they're not easy. Because they're very personal. It's asking you, the dares and stuff are asking you to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. What was that? What was the process for you? Right? Because we talk about, I think what you said about the master's not being enough is such a funny, like, I echo with that. I echo like a younger version of me inside. I could feel the fire of that before, even though at the time I had a therapist who had her master's, and I was like, I bet she's better than most people with their doctorates. And it was just interesting, the ego push I needed to like prove my worth, right? Vocationally. And I am so grateful for so many aspects of my doctoral experience. But yeah, this journey of like totally being socialized in academics and passing, right, as good enough. And then being like, oh wait, hold on. How the heck do I try to actually be a totally different version of myself that desocializes that professionalism? So what was your experience like?
I think I started working in mental health when I was barely old enough. So I started working at like Metropolitan State Hospital in Los Angeles. I was like eager to get in. And so I could already tell there's like this uniform, like this way of approaching things that I got the memo really quickly. And then I became obsessed. Like I want to have that respect that they had. And I noticed my professors would have a little entourage like following them. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I do think, being female too, I did notice like being in spaces with other males and noticing that like, okay, my voice wasn't being heard as much. So maybe if I get the master's, maybe if I get the doctorate, that my voice will be heard more, because now I have this big degree, and I don't have it in this office because it's shared, but I did put my degree on this like I didn't put it on a small frame.
Yeah,
I put it
it
on
has
this
like a
like massive frame.
space.
I'm like, this is how big it is. But it really was hiding a lot of those like insecurities that, yeah, when you look at the YAP challenge, Jessie, I don't think maybe has a bachelor's degree. I can't remember, but in some ways, the longer you stay in academia, it's like, okay, noted, got to wear this outfit, got to be professional, got to be buttoned up, got to say the right things. They're using a lot of jargon. So you have your own language. And then when you go out into other places, you're almost like people can't even understand what you're saying. So a lot of like it's an institution, right? Academic institution. And at some point I honestly felt like I could just stay here because I love learning. I'm like, I could just stay here. Just if somebody paid me to be a student forever, I just won't like actually go work in the real world.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why the course dorkery has really started, because I'm like, I just want to learn. Like even these interviews, I'm like, I just want to learn. Tell me everything about your program, and tell me how you built it, and tell me like the things you're teaching, like that learner part of our brains really gets satisfied in these spaces. And academics is wonderful because you can just keep taking all the courses, right? Like it's a place where it's honored to be that lifelong learner, right? And yeah. So what was your journey towards private practice?
Exposed, and I went to school in San Diego, so I was exposed to some trainings on private practice. So I got lucky in my program that I was exposed to that. And after my doctorate, I mean, when I did internship, I did work for the government I did a lot of government work, working for the county and the state. And then I thought, oh, like it almost felt like like the unicorn kind of like job. Like it wasn't really, when I would talk to people, they'd always shoot it down. Like, you got to work for government. You got to be like a professor. You got to get a steady paycheck. Like, come on, you're smart. You know better than that. Like, entrepreneurship is too risky. But I just dabbled in it like a little by little. And eventually I found a couple of supervisors who took me under their wing to do some under their group practice. It was all insurance based though. All of that was insurance based. So I got to see, and I think that at that time, to be honest, I think insurance was probably paying a little bit better than today. That was around 10 years ago. So
Yeah. I'm just breathing, you know? That's insane, right? Yeah. So the process and then probably your journey of shifting into private pay. What was that like?
I mean, this was really sort of unexpected because I heard horror stories, and even my supervisors were reminding me when they were training me in my pre-doc and post-doc. They were like, you got to be really, really careful about documentation. So again, going back to that straitjacket, it's like, yes, make sure everything's perfect. So my notes are like perfect, and like I can't breathe because I'm so worried about like getting audited, like auditing and working for the government. We did get audited, and that was like brutal, you know, and it's traumatizing to think like we lost all this money because you made a mistake. So I didn't want to be making any mistakes, but what I learned was that even when I was being perfect, like, and learning all those things, and I started up my own private practice, I did everything the way I was supposed to. I even, hired the best, biller that could catch all the mistakes and make sure. And even my biller was like, yeah, this is like, they're just actually, we're, like putting this bill through, and we didn't do anything differently. It just needed to be submitted more than once. And sometimes it could take months. But it seemed to be going well for, a few months, maybe a year. And then we had, I don't know if you were around when there was like that cyber attack that, maybe it was like I think it was 3 years ago. So there was an information leak. So they froze everything. Nobody was getting paid. 2 to 3 months were going by and I wasn't getting paid, but I had some savings. So I was like, okay, this is fine. At some point, then when the people were, therapists were like, oh my gosh, we haven't been paid in 2 or 3 months, I started seeing they were getting paid. So I'm like, shouldn't I also be paid? But it depended on which insurance company. So the government ones especially weren't paying, like TRICARE. I would say majority of my claims that weren't being paid. After 6 months, they're not going to pay you because that's one of their rules. They don't pay you if you don't catch it within 6 months. And so I was fighting. So I hired another professional that was even better at being more aggressive at getting my money back. And so I was counting the money being lost, and also nothing was really coming in. It was just trickling in little by little. So I was like in a panic. I can't pay my bills. So I'm used to getting like a consistent paycheck from these insurance companies.
Yeah.
And I'm spending a lot of time on the phone. I even asked I can't remember, it's like whatever, Googling like how much extra time do you spend, and I was like, shoot, I'm spending at least like 10 hours a week, just on average when things are going good. But when they're going bad, you're on the phone all the time trying to get that money back. But yeah, at some point I was like, I'm $50,000 in the hole here. And I'm worried about paying my mortgage. I've got my family to take care of. I was taking care of my husband, wasn't working. So I was taking care of him too. So it felt like a horror movie where I was like on the floor, just like devastated that like this could happen to me. And I've heard all the stories, but I didn't really think it could happen to me.
Mhm.
And even with that biller, the professional aggressive biller I had, she's like, yeah, I don't blame you if you go cash pay. And I was like, I don't even know how to go cash pay. I don't know the first thing. That's still the unicorn idea.
Yeah.
So with whatever money I had left over, I started pumping it into learning marketing. And I quickly got off all the pounds as quickly as I possibly could. I even got licensed in another state and was able to start getting cash pay clients. I think it took me about 2 to 3 months. And I started to fill my practice and told my clients, like, I'm so sorry this is happening. Most of them were very understanding, thankfully, because that was my biggest fear is like, oh my gosh, they're going to hate me. But they were all very understanding. And I had to build the cash pay. And then it was like unbelievable. Like, I can't even believe that I was able to do it. But when you're in like a pinch like that, like you have to make things happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think that when I like think about my progress in moving towards cash pay, moving towards private pay, it's just like, I would have never, I don't think I would have expected myself in grad school to have even been in a private practice. I was actually planning on being a professor or to do research, really. And when I had my daughter, I was like, we had like a big medical scare early on. And I was like, absolutely, I am not, I need to control my time. I need the conditions that I need to be a mom. And like thinking about going back to the VA or doing a different job, like I just couldn't wrap my head around both at the same time. And the more I've invested in business support, business coaching, marketing support, the math just keeps being like, you got to go private pay, right? Like this business model doesn't make sense. It does not, it's hard for it to feel sustainable. Burnout is just so inevitable at times, right? Even in a pretty thriving cash pay practice, you still have some tough moments, right? And so, yeah. And I think it's just a weird identity split in some ways as we keep moving in these directions. And I don't know, how has that been for you to wrap your head around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be easier than what we're led to believe. Because if you're so used to, I mean, a lot of my family is government workers too. So like I do come from that culture that like, it's like mind blowing. Like, how could entrepreneurship but it's like, well, there's a lot of companies out there that are doing well, right? So we have to learn those skills to keep it afloat and not just like skills to keep like the business going, but the things that we enjoy doing. And I think the background that we have in mental health, I start reminding myself, I'm like, remember, you have a degree in mental health. Like you can make a lot of things work, right? Like if it's not working, what do you teach your clients to do?
I know, right? Yeah, I literally talk to people about their careers all the time. That's all I do, right? And so thinking about, I think that that's also this hard part is it feels strange to not practice what you preach, like doing the work that we do. And we're like, no, it's good to dream. No, it's good to be resilient. No, it's good to like keep pushing and believe in yourself. And then you're like, maybe I should do the same too, right? It kind of feels, I don't know, I think I have a reaction of you feel like a fraud if you don't follow your own advice sometimes as a therapist, right? Um, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really like, and another thing I'm really grateful for is the trauma work I've done because I was doing ACT for quite a long time. That was like my foundation in my doctorate, and then I later ended up in trauma work. But you start realizing how letting go of an identity, right? So if I'm going to be the buttoned up psychologist that I was wearing like suit jackets and like even what I'm wearing today, it's like I probably, or this like lip color or my nails, I wouldn't like if I hadn't started working on my own like traumas, which is really just shedding an old identity that wasn't suiting me anymore. So I think going into private practice was an identity I really wanted, but I didn't feel like I had it in me. I still had that government employee. Like I thought I was going to be in government work till I retired. That also didn't go very well in the end. Just because when you're like, I'm just going to plant myself here and I'll stay here until I pay my student loans off and until I retire and I'm good to go. Right. And then you're like, this feels like a jail cell. I'm going to be here that long. And entrepreneurship, it was just like, yeah, but everyone keeps telling me that's not going to work. Like everyone keeps saying, don't. I even had supervisors that were like, I tried it, it didn't work for me. So then I was like, okay, it didn't work for you and you're so smart and so accomplished. So it probably won't work for me either. So it's like shedding an identity that I had and then stepping into a new one, even if it doesn't work, right? It might not work. But I think we get to the point where it's like, well, if we don't fully think we can step into it, why maybe we shouldn't step into it at all.
Right. But I think that is what I find so fascinating in thinking about myself and the people that I work with. It's the jail cell, or like, when everyone's like, I should just be happy. I have made it this far. I should just be happy. Why can't I be happy? That's often the thing I hear. Right. And I'm like, sure, but that's such a great setup for depression, because it's just this helplessness, right? Of like, I should feel this way. I should be content with what I have. And it's like, no, but I hear this clear yearning, and it doesn't come from this place of compulsively proving yourself, which I also might know something about. But like, it's actually like, no, this direction is just, I can feel it in my heart. I can't just do this one thing, right? Or I'm ready to, my motivation, and I think yours is too, is to keep people who want to be helpers and healers in the field as long as they can. And like, because it's a lot, right? And I guess I mean as long as they can in a way that's like truly inspired work. Like the work that we do in this practice is just, it's life-changing, literally, right? But it takes a lot of our own energy to make it life-changing sometimes. And so how do we bring in entrepreneurship to keep it fresh, to keep it from being stagnant or weighing us down? Or how can we be creative with this?
Yeah, and we're not supposed to be like that whole, I think that was one of my first posts when I first started doing social media, was this idea that we're supposed to like tell our kids to pick something. What are you going to do like for the rest of your life? And you're going to pick it, and we're teaching them to have this identity. And the truth is, though, that people on average, it's like 2.5 to 5 years, really, right, before they want a career pivot. They might not change like fields completely. And some of them do. Therapists, we last 5 years on average. So, and every year we're losing like 50% of, therapists to never come back because the burnout, that's happening with, doctors and nurses too, pilots. There's a lot of like that happening, right? Where they're just like being pushed to their limit. And they don't really, I don't remember them talking about that in school. So one part could be burnout where you have no choice but to leave. But another part is when you're depressed, it's like a wake up call that like, hey, something is dying inside of you and we need to find another life source.
We do. And sometimes when I work with people to even just like, even in my practice, it's my therapy practice is very vocationally focused. I have a lot of people I feel like side hustles are their own career intervention, meaning like sometimes the side hustle is the thing. And for some people I've worked with, it has become a real deal thing, right? Where it's made more than they even expected in their other jobs, right? Right. Which might be, which is, I think, things that you and I are reaching for too, right? I think it's hard to pay yourself out as a therapist once you get to private pay, like, which is so interesting. It's hard to do that, but it's like breathes life, like trying something new, starting these micro businesses, because technology really allows us to do that now. I think social media is such a big part of that. Like testing it, trying it, it can shake things up so that the you can actually feel better about your therapy practice or whatever your main gig is. Yeah, it can be really powerful.
Yeah, no, and that, I mean, just that rigidity in the field is so unhealthy that like we're supposed to just kind of stay with that same identity. And there's so many directions. And one poor piece of advice that like I've had some coaches tell me to stop following the shiny object. And I'm like, the shiny object is my life force. I love it. And to trust me enough to be like, okay, if I do follow it and it's not good for me, then I'll, shut it down or walk away from it. But it's exciting to follow those different like paths. And if I'm forced to be really rigid about my role, that's going to create the depression and burnout.
I feel like what you just said is powerful too, because I was thinking about like we think so hard about how to be good therapists, right? And in this coaching space, sometimes I don't think we think hard enough about how to be good coaches, right? And like we think really hard about how to support people in their marketing efforts, right? And their like the strategy and the structure and the knowledge of like what is best practices, right? But you're right, people kind of have like a scaled framework of people, which we know doesn't work, of being like, okay, yeah, we know shiny objects isn't good for people. So I'm going to say it to Angie, to Dr. Angie, right? And I think that's so valuable for you to push back and be like, no, this I know about me. And I know that like this is where I would get into trouble, but that piece of advice doesn't actually help me. It actually is like the thing that is like, oh, I really want to learn that new thing. That's amazing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And people can, I mean, I think that is something like in the therapy industry that is missing that I see more in coaching is kind of like there isn't any rule. I mean, there's some rules, right? Legal rules in coaching, but yeah, therapy is very rigid in like how we approach a lot of the problem solving and yeah, unfortunately, that can make therapists unhealthy themselves, right? And I'm also neurodivergent, so I mean, being ADHD, um, it's there's different types of intelligence, right? Like if you've done IQ testing, it's not just academic, like IQ that numbers or something like that, but there's also sensory intelligence where we can see things further away than other people or hear things, and I trust that intelligence now. And I didn't trust it when I was trained so heavily to be like, no, ADHD people need lists and check boxes to check things off of, and they need to focus and sit still. And I'm like, no, my whole house is all about like, I don't like my kids sitting still. That's not healthy for them. We're supposed to be moving around and fidgeting. And so now I'm like a rule breaker. I went from being this rigid rule bound to now I'm like, I have to find a little bit of a medium because I'm like, I can't keep breaking all the rules, but
I know. I've got to well, I think when you keep breaking all the rules, it feels so like it's sometimes it's harder to learn. Like I find that for me, I tend to like some people and convergent thinkers assume a thing is true and then that's how they learn, right? And in divergent thinking, it's like, I'm just going to assume it's not true and you have to prove to me that it is true, right? But there's a way we can get stuck in that constant challenge, like where I tend to live. And I've got to take some information and kind of just pretend like it might work, right, for people so that I can, I don't know, not fight with it so much too, is to just try on the strategy, right? And to be willing to be like, okay, like this is cheesy and the Yap Challenge is here, right? And like, I'm just going to be a part of like all the vanilla 17,000 people trying to do it, right? Like, it's interesting trying to find your voice in all of this, right? And like you said, not go to like such extremes and in reaction.
but you have to try it on. And this is like, I think of like Superhero Act. I don't know if you've looked into that before, but it was somebody that went to the school I went to too that created the superhero therapy. But I mean, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons or, cosplay. A lot of autistic people like to do cosplay, and it gives you permission to let's like put this outfit on. I think I was doing my brand voice. Yeah, just like a few weeks ago and working on that heavily. And it's like you get so like again, you're getting this identity, right? And I'm like, actually my identity, I remember even in middle school how I would be like goth one week and a skater the next week, and people would be horrified. They'd be so upset. They were like, make up your mind. And I'm like, this is my mind. I like to do something different every week. And by the way, like we grew up like 15 minutes from Hollywood, and I grew up in Anaheim near Disneyland. So like it's all about costumes. Like, can I be a Disney princess today? Can I be? And there's all these like, how fun. Why not try it on if it fits and you can stick with it longer? But yeah, it kind of threatens other people's identity too. Right, when they see you moving and shifting. But I understand the point of branding, right? Like it's like people want to be able to rely on you being the same. But I think it's fun to, like you said, try something, just try it on.
Yeah, I think things get I mean, I think a lot of this advice is, I think the more I am learning about business and marketing, the more I'm starting to see like, okay, these are the basics and the fundamentals, right? These are the things, but like I would never describe CBT without nuance at this point, right? Like I would never, or I wouldn't, I like, because of all the years that we've been in it, and not even like in the therapy and psychology space, it's never reduced down to these little nuggets. The nuggets are not enough context to understand the richness of something that's valuable, right? And or something that's compressed into 90 seconds on social media. I keep doing the my
Yeah. And I mean, another practice that I've learned recently, again, I'm an addict to learning, so I apologize for, but Hakomi was one that I learned. I think I took that training a couple of years ago, but it was a lot of dancers and coaches. So it's for therapists and coaches, but it was really healing. They considered it kind of traumatic to be like a dancer and or ballerina, right? To be like, and they were learning now for the first time. That combined with this like movement therapy to like, now we're going to unlearn everything you learned as a dancer. And I feel the same way as a healer. So I call myself more of a healer than like, I mean, yes, I am a licensed psychologist and that is part of me too, but I can't fully identify as that because to be my own intuitive healer, I weave in a way that like I can't follow the CBT manual anymore or the ACT manuals. But they were good to learn from, and I understand, right? Like on a cognitive level, why a lot of it is important, and I'll still revisit it. But I think I've over the years, it felt like I want to do this. This is exciting. You can't do that. Okay, well then this is no fun. Yeah, no, I love the part like in the stuff that we're learning in the Yap Challenge is looking at it like you want to be able to attract right those people that are going to be your buddy. So when I think, ah, that's so sweet, like I want to hang out with them and they want to hang out with me, I don't want to attract people that don't want to hang out with me, right? That isn't a good fit. And I mean that is how I approached my that's how my therapy practice became successful. And it took me my whole career really toward, it was just really towards the last few years that I developed that like niche. It's like I've been hanging out with neurodivergent people since I started my career before I even got a degree. So I fit in really well with that community. Why not hang out with them? And it's like, oh, but that's, I'm not going to get that many people. What if like nobody shows up or whatever? And I just really leaned into that. And my coaching business has a flavor of that too, where it's like if yeah, if that doesn't feel right for them, then it's not going to work out between us, and that's totally okay. It's that like I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. I'm not trying to pull in people that aren't a good match. So if I lean more into being myself, then that's what I'm going to pull in. Like she was talking about, like if you're Jesse from the Yap Challenge were saying, like if you're yeah, really angry all the time, then remember those are the people you're attracting, right? Or if you're depressed all the time, you're going to attract. Not that it's not like you have to, be on that mode all the time, or that you can't go into that mode sometimes, but it's a reminder of whatever you're putting out there is what you're attracting in. So if I'm going to be all buttoned up, then that's all I'm going to have too. And I don't want a bunch of buttoned up people either. Yeah, no, I love that. That's, I mean, like the ivory tower is one thing, right? And we can create the ivory tower even in our businesses too and have this idea of what they should look like. But it's really that relationship that we're going to build. And it might not be what's in our head or what niche that we kind of landed on. And even those interactions too. So yeah, I love that. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, it's another one of those like side hustles. It could be a side hustle. And I mean, I think I just noticed that a lot of my clients were doing that. What do they call it? Like the doorknob thing where they like right before they leave, they're going to trauma dump on you the last like 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm like, this is cruel to give them an hour. Who the hell decided this? This is not, especially with the hyperverbal, like neurodivergent people I work with. And I work with highly intelligent people. They've got a lot to say, and that's their way to regulate their nervous system is just to dump it out verbally for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then we can move into the trauma work. So my method is 5 days long. Which doesn't have to be like I have some people that will do like what's mini intensive, which could be like 3 hours. So I have somebody signed up for like a 3 hour one tomorrow, and they just have a problem that, they think that they can get through within 3 hours. But I just can't do 1 hour anymore. Like if we're going to open up Pandora's box, we're going to chill out for 3 to 6 hours minimum. So I'll do if they're doing a 5 day, and it's a trauma method, so we're going across the lifespan from it's a attachment focused trauma method that I use, and I've adapted it to neurodivergent people. So I weave in a lot of like neuroscience type stuff to keep the brain healthy. But we'll start 3 hours in the morning, take an hour lunch, and then 3 hours in the afternoon for 5 days straight. Um, but not everybody can, like teenagers don't need that. Teenagers need like 1 day or 2 days. So for them, it's really quick. I'm like, man, you're easy. The adults, they come to me at 50. I'm like, we're going to be here for a while. You might need to schedule an extra day. Um, but it is intense. It's a lot to go through. So I couldn't imagine it being like all psychoeducational. I'm weaving in, pretty much everything I've learned over my career, I've put together in a package that I thought, okay, this is what I think intuitively that they need. And sometimes, well, I don't even do most of them. I don't do in the office. We do in more of like a retreat style where they're in like spa type setting or mountain area, like Airbnb that's really tranquil because I want it to be really quiet where they just feel safe to just fall apart because that's what therapy's for. But it's also for having fun. So I also do a lot of artwork. I do a lot of somatic artwork and stuff during that time too. So I'm like, it's also about connecting with that younger part of you that wasn't buttoned up, that didn't have a lot of these stressors or expectations. And we need to remember that that is the strongest part of ourselves, is the youngest part of ourselves. The 5 day intensives, I only schedule one like every 6 weeks. So maybe every 2 months. So I give myself prep time because that is more prep. I have them do their intake and I kind of think about that person and what they need and I create a plan specifically for them. So it is a little bit different. For the most part, we go through everybody's life, but not everybody can go through that either. So I have to custom tailor that. If it's, say, somebody that has a really severe trauma background, then we might be more gentle. And other people, they're like, they want out and they're kind of like, just give it to me. Like, I need to be over this. I need to get through this. I need to get over my childhood or whatever, divorce or something that they're going through. And then my recovery, I usually always take 1 to 2 weeks off after and have no demands. I might even go to the mountains and disappear and just release anything that I might have been carrying from the other person. Yeah, so I mean, I've been working individually with people on like creating intensives. And so it's been very similar to where I went from like the one-to-one therapy to one-to-one coaching, which I still offer. There's a little bit of that still in there where I'm offering one-to-one. But I just figured like I know so much, it's just hard to do like this 1 hour thing at a time. So building the program is a space that my Burn the Couch program is a space that not just the marketing, there's the marketing there to sell intensives or, because therapists are going to come in a different place. Some of them maybe just want to raise their rates and that's where they start off. Others will be more advanced and are already cash pay off insurance and want to offer intensives. So I'll be sharing my signature method with them so that they could just already have a package to go out and use the same method that I have. Um, or they can create their own. But yeah, we all need marketing. Like without marketing, you don't like have a business, right? You have to put the word out there. So that's important. And then combined with it, I can never remove the part of me that's always going to use my psychotherapy. And also I use a lot of, indigenous type practices that I have, gotten kind of a geek about, because I just realized all the methods we're using. ACT is based on Buddhism, EMDR is based on a lot of like hypnosis and NLP and shamanism. So I also weave a lot of that into people's mindset if they're having blockages. I'm like, okay, let's just hammer away at the cement that's in your mind about not being able to charge a higher rate. Yeah. And I mean, I think the Yep Challenge is something that is going to make you grow really fast. So it can be really dysregulating, but I think we're able to withstand that with all of the training that we have. I'm more gentle on my clients or therapists that I work with. So I'm not going to just throw them into the deep end. I honor and respect the nervous system. So it's like, if you don't want to show your face on social media, trust me, I never had to show my face on social media. And I did have to take some headshots and pictures and things to advertise my therapy practice, but I didn't have to do the YAP challenge or all these really difficult things. Like, social media can be really challenging on your nervous system. So I respect that if therapists aren't in that space, then you can grow into it, right? You don't have to, yeah, fry yourself. Yeah, I mean, I think I try to trust the process that usually we won't sign up for something if we don't have the capacity, but sometimes we underestimate how big something could feel. And then we might not want, and that's where trauma happens, right? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, it was too much. And again, not that I'm saying like it's a huge trauma. It could be, like a smaller, like just maybe really uncomfortable situation. But I like to grow into it if I can, but I am married to a Marine, or he's not active now. He's a veteran, but he's definitely like thrown me down, what's it called? Like a Black Diamond Hill in Mammoth. I don't know if you've ever been skiing in Mammoth. I didn't know I was on a Black Diamond, and he's like, let's just take this route. And I've never skied before, and I was crying and falling down. But then I was like, how cool. I went down a Black Diamond. Look at me. So I'm grateful sometimes to be like thrown into situations that, like, if he would have told me it was a Black Diamond, I wouldn't have got into it. But then he like reminded me, like, you could do this. Like, you're capable. I'm like, oh. Very fun. Thank you for having me. Yeah, live is definitely jumping into the deep end. So.